I built the largest personal website at Infosys. I used to get, this was 2001. Stage one, build something, get feedback, go iterate on it. We actually built something called Next 100, where we get the best ideas at a particular point in time. Second is the community. We actually have something called Before Day Zero, and within that, something called the Co-Founder Club. I think for me, the joy actually started at IIT Madras, where I built a version of Carmen Sandiego, the Indianized version of Carmen Sandiego.
I have this amazing story with Flipkart where 2009-10 we bought a bunch of stuff and they cancelled our order. It was a 60,000-70,000 order.
Talks through the Ikigai circles in a particular way. Psychology, founder personalities. There are two very clear sort of distinctive personalities. One who's a missionary.
Hi, this is Amrit. We are at IIT Madras, my alma mater, and India's top university for people who like to build. We are here to meet some builders, ask them, what are you building? What does it take to build? And what makes IIT Madras the best place to build? Hello and welcome to the Best Place to Build podcast. Today we are sitting with Rajiv Srivatsa. He was the co-founder of Urban Ladder and then now the founding partner of Antler India. And he's been a builder for a really long time. So I'm very excited to talk to him about what building means to him. Hi, welcome to the podcast, Rajiv.
Thanks so much for having me. It's great to be in campus.
Yes, you're here for your reunion, right? Which year reunion is this?
This is the 25th year reunion, the Silver Jubilee.
Okay. So I want to quickly understand your current role, and I have some questions around that. We haven't had too many guests in the VC side of things, investing side of things. So want to understand a little bit about how that works and your particular view of that.
Sure. I think the VC industry is pretty broad-based that way. And for me, the role that I play is very close to being that of a builder, because Antler's prerogative is to fund startups across sectors on day zero and literally at the idea stage. So for me, it allows Antler more than just writing a check to be actually a temporary co-founder of sorts to the founder. And I don't see personally myself any other way, because if you see generally, this late stage private equity, there is sort of mid-early stage venture capital. But the earlier stage is really where there's just a lot of fun. There's a lot of challenge also. And I just wanted to sort of continue my building journey of sorts. And when I was looking at what next to do right after Urban Ladder around COVID, this opportunity came up. And for me, building a platform, building an institution which sort of stands for being your first believer on day zero was very exciting. I had never invested in my life before. And the moment I sort of took that on, over the last 5 years, what we've made Antler is at least your de facto platform. Whenever you think of wanting to become a founder, it doesn't matter if you're a college student, if you are working in a startup, if you're in a big company, Antler should be the de facto place. And we've done a bunch of stuff to make sure that whether it's deep tech, whether it's consumer, whether it's SaaS, enterprise, fintech, it doesn't matter which sector, Antler should be your first port of call to be your helping partner, not just a capital partner, but your sparring partner, to even think through, who should be your right co-founder, what should be the idea, should you go path A, path B. And that's what Antler's role is. We have now funded 110 startups. We operate a $75 million or a 600 crore fund focused on India. Of course, Antler India itself is part of a larger global platform of Antler. Antler, funnily in itself, is a startup. It's only 7 years old globally. It's 4.5 years old in India. And today we manage $1.2 billion across the world. So it's sort of mushroomed like a startup, more than like a VC firm. And being part of a global platform also offers founders and the startups that we fund a much bigger sort of canvas, either whether to sort of get intelligence globally or whether to launch globally. So that's what Antler is, and I can get into any other specific aspects of what Antler is.
Okay, so you said Antler is a global fund with an India arm, which you head.
Right.
And you have funded 110 startups.
Yeah.
You also said that they should be the founder's first call should be to you, something like that.
Right.
Is that, are you running a community? Are you running a residency?
Right.
In addition to the funding?
Yes. And that's sort of what's unique about us, right? The way we see, I think the closest sort of, I would say, inspiration for us was Y Combinator, because I think over the last 20 years, the kind of impact YC has had, I think has been phenomenal. And if you see the Antler hat, there are two big differences. One is we're very decentralized, which means that me and my partner Nitin and the whole team operate the India Fund. And when we operate the India Fund, because in India, You also have a variety of other players sort of playing at the very early stage. What we did additionally was two things. One is we actually built something called Next 100, where we get the best ideas at a particular point in time from builders, from ecosystem folks, from VCs, and sort of put out a report called Next 100 every year. And that Next 100, what it does is it sort of, I would say, puts a lot of seeds of thought in people who are still working and who want to be a founder in the next 6-12 months. So that's one thing, which is a lot of focus on content itself as a, and that's not just regular content like, a lot of people put content with founders, content with VCs. Of course, we also do that, podcasts. But I think what is very specific about Next 100 is we really try and understand either within sectors, emerging ideas, or even emerging sectors. Like we were first to sort of really pick up this whole Digital India, the ONDC and, the mission that Nandan and the whole digital infrastructure stack really put out. As well as we've been extremely early on even things like AI and deep tech and defense tech in India. So one is Next 100 as a content arm. Second is the community. We actually have something called Before Day Zero, and within that something called the Co-Founder Club. And again, this is something very specific Antler does, right? Because what we believe is in that -1 to 0 phase of a founder's journey, where someone is turning from being an employee to becoming a founder, there's just a lot of ambiguity on which idea, which path, which sector, who should be my right co-founder.
Correct.
And the power of that community, it has 700, 800 future sort of founders. Some of them might never become a founder, but the whole point of that community is to sort of nudge you, is to sort of guide you, is to sort of really help make this very, I would say, extremely trouble-filled, problem-filled -1 to 0 slightly less hazardous of sorts, so that there's a much higher chance that you become a founder. So the community Before Day Zero does that. Of course, our core product after that is actually the residency, which is once you're clear of which space, once you're clear of who your co-founder is, today you can just come to us and we have this very high-powered sort of, I would say physical space plus ideation sessions over a 2-month period, where you sit in our Bangalore office as part of the residency. We get 1,500, 2,000 applications. We pick the top 20 teams. They work with us. At that point in time, it's really about, should I pick customer A? Should I pick idea B? And they're in that very last stages of what MVP to build, right? That is the phase with which the residency comes in, and we work with the founders there. And some of those founders, some of those residency folks, we actually invest in. That's what we do before even we actually invest in a company.
Very interesting. So Next 100 from a content point of view, Before Day Zero from a community point of view, the residency and investing.
Right.
It's a multi-armed thing.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much. I also know that we have interacted before, and I've sort of followed your journey because you were a senior, and Urban Ladder is just a very well-recognized brand, right? So you sort of end up following. And I also know you as a very thoughtful person. So I want to ask you this question, and really from the minute you said, yes, I will come to the podcast, this is what's running in my head, is that we have this notion of what the word build means. And of course, from somebody outside, they may think of it as building an organization, or maybe 20 years back, they would have thought of it as building a bridge. In computer science, there's a meaning of the word build. And so, sort of because of the way people perceive that word, it has different meaning to different people. What does it mean to you? Or maybe I can also ask, how do you see a builder thinking or being?
I think it starts with maybe I'll take one step back, in terms of how I see the overall philosophy of build, and then I'll come to personally what really excites me or the angle I would go, right? I think today, the world we are in, I think the builder definition has, I would say, expanded. Because at the end of the day, the one genesis of any builder is he or she creates something from nothing, and that something from nothing has some impact on some customer, some definable impact. Now, I would look at that impact on two scales. One is the depth of impact, in terms of an impact when you say generally means it's positive impact on even one person's life, right? So an individual caregiver is also impacting a particular person in a one-person life in a very positive way. So that's also impact, right? So that is also sort of building service as impact. So one is depth of impact and what value it is. The other is scale of impact, which means that can I build something which does not just positively impact one person? Can it impact 10 people? Can it impact 100 people? Can it impact 1 billion people, right? You can also think of scale. Not everything someone builds has to either have very high depth of impact or high scale of impact. It could be any permutation combination of this. It could be low on depth, high on scale. It could be high on, low on scale, high on depth. Or the ideal super utopian version is it's both high on depth and high on scale.
So you're of course talking about this table that you've drawn for me. I'll just push it towards you and we'll show it to the audience as a super.
Right.
I see that you've written scale here and depth here. So can you run us through this and explain it to us?
Sure.
Assume that everybody can see this.
Okay. So I'll keep it simple just so that let a framework not obfuscate at least what the message should be. I think today you can be a builder of content and you can really spread across a variety of people, right? Because you build content that's interesting. At the end of it, everything has to have impact to particular human being. It could be a system also, but content building is one area where you typically have very high scale because digital allows you to do that. The impact of it is not that much. Content you see, you read, you have some aha at that moment and then you forget it generally.
Yeah, you move on,
right? So which essentially means content is usually associated with high scale, low depth. This, if you see the other extreme of it, which is something what I would call coaching. A coach actually usually has a reasonable direct one-on-one impact. If someone takes on a one-on-one coaching, you typically spend a few hours, you sort of help people wade through a particular problem statement. You maybe work with them for 6 months, 1 year. Coaching is the other end of it where you have very high depth of impact, if done well, of course, but you generally have much lower scale of impact. You can do 2 people, you can do maybe 5 people, but beyond that, it becomes very difficult even as a professional coach, and then you'll have to sort of start building it as an institution. I'll take these 2 extremes just to make a point that you as a builder could be a coach. And just because you're providing a service, that's also building of sorts, right? Which is the other extreme. You're building content, that is also building, right? And these are sort of 2 extremes. The 2 quick next in line of both of that is you build a community. You're sort of impacting maybe 100 people, 200 people. Community is where sort of actions can persist for a slightly longer time, which means it'll have more impact than content generally because there is some level of change behavior, that's some level of accountability to each other. So that's what I would call medium impact and high scale.
So you're saying that somebody who's building community content will move towards building community.
And that's the thing. It's not that someone who's great at content has to do community. There are some people who are just good at community, so they could also just build a community, not content. Of course, if you naturally want to scale up an institution, you start doing a variety of all of this, right, as an institution. So community, medium impact, very high scale. On the other side, if you build a course, which is an education sort of, you're impacting again 100 people, 200 people, and it's not just one-on-one coaching, but it's a course where people are going through the entirety of the course. You probably, there'll be a professor who probably has impacted you for life, right? And there have been and the courses where you sort of really, with full conviction, go in. It's not those that you just put on your degree, but you just really go through the course and learn something extremely meaningfully. And that's how I would put as reasonably high scale and very high impact. Now, if you see all of this sort of congregating into something high scale, high impact, it usually becomes either a digital product or a physical product or an experience or a service. Because at that scale, what happens is generally when you build something as a product, it spreads to tens, hundreds, thousands, millions. If you build something which is a service, it could be a hospitality service, it could be an experience, it could be a travel experience, it could be something like, it could be an education service. It generally spreads to probably thousands, millions, and that's where you have both high impact and high scale. Now, not everyone, and as I said, you could be a builder of just one of it, derive a lot of joy. You want to scale things up, you want to do multiple of this. The utopian end goal of everyone in the building journey is to actually build to that being a product or a service that actually impacts many people.
That's very interesting. When people talk about building, they usually sort of default talk about building products or something tangible as a digital product. But you're saying that there's also content, there's community, there's a coaching practice or a mentoring practice, and then there's
and for me, that's the joy of it, right? Because at the end of the day, if you see building, it used to be around products and physical products, but today, I would say a service also impacts all of us positively. A great hospitality experience, a great dining experience just really has a fantastic sort of impact on a particular human being. So my own, which is why I sort of took a step back on my own definition of what building is. It could be a service, it could be a product. It has to have impact to a customer at the end of the day and hundreds and thousands of customers in a very meaningful way over a particular lifespan, right? And that's when the meaningfulness of that stands out. So I would keep all of this as building. And if you take my personal stance, of course, what I have built over the years has been very focused on building products. I'm personally not a great content person or community person. And today, of course, I play the role of an investor, which is sort of, I would say, channeling builders. So I'm building an organization. Investors do a job which is one level lesser than building products. I've also built investing as an institution, which means I'm also trying to scale it up beyond myself. So I think there is a joy in investing, but if you see these different sort of hats of building, that's what I've personally done, whether that's 10 years across corporate, whether that's Infosys, Cognizant, or Yahoo, whether that was Urban Ladder, where we were also building physical and digital products and experiences. And today, of course, building an institution called Antler. It's sort of, for me, the joy of building always goes back to, can you create something from nothing, which is something that I've sort of always derived joy, and scale it up to not just one person or 10 people, but hundreds and thousands and millions of people. And that really has been existential to me, right from, probably very early school days. And I would say that building products is sort of the end outcome, but if someone is doing even any of these micro things, I think they're creating great impact in the world today.
So you're linking building with impact.
For me, building starts from doing something from scratch to something of scale, and it really has to have impact on at least one human being.
Sure. So that's from an outcome perspective, right? From an input perspective, from a daily grind perspective, when we tell people that, IIT Madras is a great place to build and things like that, what does it mean for a builder? I get up in the morning and I plan my week, plan my month. How do they approach life?
Sure. So I think now is the second hat to that, right? Which is, how do you really, sort of go towards being a great builder?
Yeah.
I can sort of do a bit of proxy on my own journey.
Yeah.
Because I think that's probably the best example. And it's not like I knew all this on day one. I'm sort of giving a story today, so it's much easier to sort of look back at things. Yeah. But I was quite a nerd back in school, right? The first time I started loving computers was 1994. And literally, 10th standard, 93, 94, I had this book on Pascal and I started coding. Quintessential definition of a nerd would always be on my computer. Yeah. And when you see your code coming out as hello world on the other side of the screen, it just gave me joy. Until then, I was this extremely introverted, Chennai boy, going to school, doing good on studies, playing cricket outside my house, gully cricket in Chennai, and listening to some good music, Tamil music, and movies and comedy. This was the quintessential Tamil, Chennai schoolboy. Now, the moment I started seeing this computer code in 1994, that's when I said, okay, I just started loving it. I think for me, the joy actually started at IIT Madras, where I built a version of Carmen Sandiego, the Indianized version of Carmen Sandiego. I had learned a bunch of coding on the side in IIT, and I put it out in the campus, computer, on the Naval Arc computer. I could see my own classmates and juniors actually play that and really derive a lot of joy. And for me, that was like ultimate, right? Not just seeing the hello world output in 10th standard or 12th standard, but actually put out something and seeing people actually use it was just outstanding. That sort of translated into me getting into Infosys. I built the largest personal website in Infosys.
Before that, you're talking about the game Where the Hell is Carmen Sandiego?
That is correct.
And there's a detective and you have to figure out where he's gone based on some clues.
Yes.
We are on the same page.
We are on the exact same page. I did an India version where you have to choose whether you want to go to Agra or Kanpur. I went to the Manorama yearbook, put a lot of clues inside and a bunch of stuff I did. So I think translating that to Infosys, I built the largest personal website at Infosys. This was 2001. And I used to have daily traffic of 1,000 users every day on that personal website. And the amount of joy that gave me was unparalleled, right? Because you would just see people who are extremely busy at work and then coming for small deviation, distraction to my website, listen to music, get some downloads, see some wallpapers. It was a very basic website, but that became so large that it actually gave me like, okay, there is clear impact in the internet building websites. Went to IIM Bangalore, continued that in IMB. I actually built the intranet, sort of really saw that people were connecting with each other. Coincidentally, the same time that Facebook was getting started in 2003 in the Valley, I built something very equivalent inside IMB. Of course, I never knew of Facebook at that time. You didn't have the exposure at that time. Today, if this was the same time, I would have been building a startup at that time in campus, right? Obviously, this was 22 years back. And so I could see the impact. Now, this was of 200 people. And I wanted to get into the internet. At that time, I got into Cognizant and at least learned the whole building products for clients and enterprises way, very similar to Infosys. And then, of course, the Urban Ladder journey continued. So if you see my own evolution, going back to the first point, I was an IC nerd putting products out where one person 10 people, 20 people would use, and then now 1,000 people would use. And what does that mean? That essentially means that the first job of a builder is to create something from nothing. You could code, you might use AI, you might use your friend to code. That doesn't matter, right? I just loved coding, so I did that. Today, I'm not going to go code. I would rather use someone else to code because they would be much smarter than me in coding. So if you see the evolution of the builder, I would say there are 4 steps, right? 1, you build a product, put it out. Now, what is the skill that's involved there? You have a sense of what a user wants. You have a sense of putting out, getting some numbers on what that is. This works, this doesn't work, people like this, people don't like it. You get some data behind the scenes. You also talk to users. So that's the foundational skill of any builder. If you don't want to listen to consumers, if you don't love the joy of looking at metrics, don't be a builder. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter whether you're building a community, a content piece, a product, service. You have to be user-centric, customer-centric.
Wait,
So,
I want to stop you. So your first step was build something, second is get feedback.
if you break it down into I have 4 stages. I'm talking still stage
Oh, you're
1.
still on
Stage
stage
1,
Okay.
build something, get feedback, go iterate on it, do sort of a job of looking at metrics, be very customer-centric in that qualitative use. All of this I would call just a stage 1.
Stage 1.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there are more
But
things to
in
build.
this stage also, I want to just point out something. You know, when I was in campus, there was a senior of mine. I remember this day very distinctly. I think his fan stopped working, and he decided to get up on a ladder, open the fan, and just rewound the whole coil. Which I was like, oh, this guy is a builder. But you're not saying that. You're saying that there has to be a impact on user. You have to get feedback. There has to be somebody else involved.
So this is the thing, which is what I'm saying is I'm a very consumer guy. I'm not a deep tech guy. I'm not a platform guy. And that's a very personal thing. The exact equivalence of that is in a deep tech sense, you'll have to imagine that you're going to put that product out, whether that's building a rocket or building an electric scooter or building a motor that's going to be used. You can do all of this within yourself. Now, who is the consumer is you have to start thinking of as a consumer, because at the end of the day, you can't maybe put it out in a company, because if you're building something for enterprise, something where there's a very inherent deep tech thing where you're going to take years to get to a particular technology, you'll have to imagine yourself as a consumer to sort of really, tinker with things, right?
Yeah.
And that's a lot to do with anything which is deep tech, anything which is hardcore engineering. I was probably not a great hardcore engineer ever, leave aside naval arc engineer. So for me, it was just about seeing impact on consumers. So the ease of that is you put something out in one day, you can get feedback from someone else.
Fair enough. I mean, from the art marketing point of view, let's say an artist may be focused on their art mastery and so on.
Correct.
But there is a point where you're interacting with someone, that art is creating impact. So,
Yes.
you want to put it on a metro station or you want to put it in an airport and just see how people are interacting.
Yeah. And that I would call as even phase -1, because at the end of the day, if you're not really great at that, the more very specific it is, like art or music or something even very deep scientific or technical, you have to act prepared for that. For me, it was putting something out for consumer. It's that much easier. I don't have to be a specialist at something, especially in the early days in 2000 and stuff. Today, if I have to put something for consumer, the bar is much higher versus 10 years back versus 20 years back. So I would put that as the phase of preparation, which is literally a -1 stage. I wouldn't even put it into the product stage. But putting out the first version of the product, getting customer feedback is really phase 1 of building. Right?
Fine, done.
Phase 2. Okay, so if you now extend this to phase 2, what you would look at is you'll have to then build it and now scale it. Now, how do you do that as people? I would call anything and everything that I've learned with actually specifically the Urban Ladder journey on just pulling people together. Because at the end of the day, you can never build a great service or a great product without pulling people. Now, as IIT trained engineers, we are also extreme introverts. And I think somewhere for me, the whole growth of being just an IC, very smart IC, to actually being a people thing just happened only with Urban Ladder. Because when you're building an organization, and at peak, Urban Ladder had 1,200 people. I was the head of HR, as well as, brand, and just how do you build culture? How do you build a story? How do you build vision? How do you pull people together? How do you sort of build their careers? How do you performance manage? How do you set goals? Because people have to be aligned in a direction. In that direction, especially if you're growing a super hyperscale company, you're also going to have failures of people sort of not aligning, friction, all of that stuff.
I've heard other builders talking about this. You move from product building to org building, kind of mindset shift has to happen.
Yes, and the point is not everyone who's a great builder is great at pulling people together. And that's where co-founders help, or that's where either you individually have that skill to scale up to that, or you surround yourself with people in that organization who can be better than you to do that. But in the AI world, people are talking about a single person unicorn, so maybe there's never going to be too many people in a particular point. But if you sort of leave that, conceptually, you still need maybe a 10 people, even if it's 5 or 10 people, you need to align people on a vision, set a core set of values on what you're looking at so people talk the same language, and a variety of things which, it's in itself a full field of sorts. And when you build trust, this also translates to other things. You sort of start building trust with suppliers, with customers, with press, with media, all of that stuff, right? So at least on pulling an org together is something that you would get benefited on a variety of things. And I would call that sort of really a phase 2, which is to scale all of that up, right? So that's sort of, in my head, at least a phase 2 of building.
Nice.
Phase 3 is money.
Wait, one second. How many phases are there?
There are 4 phases.
Okay.
Phase 3 is money, right? Which is, I think for me, what I've also realized is obviously a real world operates on money, right? Because at the end of the day, you want profits for your shareholders, you want sort of to make money off anything, not just individually. Personally, I've never cared about money, but organizations have to care about money. Otherwise, you have a question of sustainability or living, right?
Yeah.
So if you're looking at money, how do you monetize users? And building some level of a business economics into it, because at the end of the day, whether it's a product or a service or a content or a community, the world operates on money and you can't change it. You can be as utopian as you want, but you can't change it, right? So how do you get in money, whether that's customers' money, whether that's investors' money, how do you manage the cash flows, how do you manage the business end of things, becomes important as you scale. Now, individuals may not care about it. A great artist who probably is living, off a suitcase may not care about it. But as you want to scale this up into multiple people and multiple things, money becomes a critical part of how you manage all of it.
Right. And you're also saying that it's not it's a bunch of things around pricing and
yes,
around cash flow. When
cash flow, revenues, how do you manage P&L? How do you manage if you have external investors? How do you hyperscale? How do you get different pools of capital? It could be grants, it could be venture debt, it could be venture capital. Maybe you need to be bootstrap because you're not building a venture scale business. Really, only 5% of business need to be venture scale, right?
Sure.
So I think everyone now thinks that, okay, I'm building a business, I need to go raise venture capital. It doesn't work that way, right? So you have to figure out what is the right source of money. How do you scale up? What are your money requirements to scale and put new investments? And that's when you build organizations like sort of Reliance, right? Capital management is a huge part of it as a founder. So you'll have to, again, at the end of the day, not a founder gets the same amount of joy in all this. Someone might just be a deep technical builder. He or she may not get joy in building an org, getting money and stuff. But you'll have to just pull people together towards it, or don't have those kind of ambitions, right? One of those two. So that's how I would see sort of the third stage of really evolving into being a product builder or a company builder of sorts, or an enterprise builder of sorts. I think the last stage is, it's sort of more meta, and I very deliberately put it as a stage because at the end of the day, it is also scaling the ethos of an organization, right? Which is that if you build a great product, you're very customer centric, great. You pull really smart people together, fantastic. You've actually gotten money and you actually have some idea of where this money is going to lead you to. So that's also awesome. Now, what does the organization stand for in the larger scheme of things? In society, if you're building a great organization, you have to somewhere look at what's your core foundational value to that. What's your view to partners? What's your view to suppliers? What's your view to ecosystem? And today, any organization which goes beyond a particular scale has a much bigger impact on society. So what's really your sort of weight in society? And again, I think, for example, today, even what Elon Musk has built, right? Let's say, I think SpaceX or Tesla stands for something way more. It's sort of pursuit of multi-planetary thing. It's sort of very motivating to people. It's, Tesla, right? In terms of just energy. And so there's a larger mission. Once you have all the other things right, can your organization, the institution stand for it? And most importantly, in that journey, can the organization run without you as the builder, right? Because somewhere you'll have to take yourself of the equation. If an organization stands for 5, 10, 15, 20 years, some point in time, you're either going to conk off or you're going to sort of want to do other things. And can the organization be built beyond you? And that's the sort of the ultimate scale of the test of an organization. Can it really last beyond you?
Fair enough. I think when you're young, and at least maybe I did that, maybe others do that, but you're sitting in a hostel room and you're thinking of your life 40 years, 30 years, 20 years from now, and you're thinking,
I'll build a company. It'll be like Apple. I'll be the Steve Jobs, and I'll be the Elon Musk,
Right.
whatever. But just going through, isn't it daunting for young people to think that I have to first build products and then build an org, then figure out all this, how to commercially successfully execute all of this, and then I'll have a opportunity to maybe build a company if nobody else competes with me.
How philosophical do you want me to get in this? Because I think the core of all this is, I think with every passing year, you also get to understand what is it that you want out of your own life. From the outside, it feels like, okay, everyone wants to be an A.R. Rahman in music, or everyone wants to be Hrithik Roshan in, let's say, bodybuilding, or Shah Rukh Khan in acting, or an Apple or a Steve Jobs. And that's great. Right? Everyone should have that ambition, and that's how young minds are made, and that's sort of looking forward something from a desire perspective. As you go through life, now, one thing is, I think, we probably won't have too much data today because AI is still new. All of these have been sort of short-cycled of sorts. You can do a bunch of things much faster than what I did in the last 20 years, right? Because of the whole AI wave, much lesser people, much faster access to capital, blah, blah, blah. Let's keep that out for a bit because fine, no one is able to fully predict as to the impact of it, so let's keep that out.
The 10,000 hours may actually be lesser.
It might be just way lesser, right? If you keep that out, it's a very philosophical point because at the end of the day, if you're doing content and if you believe that content is what gives you joy, everything else is great. Okay, the biggest, most inspirational founder became everything else also, but might not be for you. And a series of, let's say, successes, failures, if you really have high self-awareness, you know what gets the joy for you. Some people get that joy, more funding, higher valuation, but at the end of it, not everything is a success, right? And so when you go through life cycles, the more self-reflective you are every 3 years, 5 years, you start knowing as to what really gives you the joy. Maybe it's not the unicorn valuation. Maybe it's not 1 million views on your video. Maybe it's not friends talking about you in an alumni reunion. All that is just very momentary. At the core of it, you go back to why you started being a builder. And if you want to stay true to that, just be true to that. You don't have to do all of the rest of it because you could still have a product or a service that's impacting one human being and live the whole of life. The question is, which will be a bigger regret for you? That's why I said I'll get philosophical because then it's regret minimization. Will the bigger regret be if you didn't at least aim to go build that and in that process change yourself to get to be that person to build that? Or will the regret be all the pain that is going to come on the sacrifices, personal fronts and stuff? So you want to just be a single person company. You have to somewhere take a very personal, philosophical, individual call to say, will this be a bigger regret or will this be a bigger regret or something in between? And I think the more clarity only emerges with more life and more experience. And as long as you're true to that, there is no time pressure, there is no external world. Just because in your own batch there's one unicorn founder and one person who's having a much happier time being an individual content creator, both are absolutely fine. It's the paths they choose. You choose the path that you want.
But in reality, I mean, I agree with you and I'm thank you for sharing that. But when you're young, in reality, I don't know, maybe it's the time. I don't know how it was when you got into IIT. And definitely less when I got in, much more now. There's a lot of peer influence.
Yeah, of course.
There's a lot of anxiety build up. Even those who are builders in campus, who like to make projects or business plans or whatever it is, like not necessarily enterprise, but just build with their hands and repair their fans.
Right.
Stuff like I didn't realize that rhymed, but it
did.
They end up towards the placement season and towards the final year, they end up with a lot of peer pressure.
Right.
And all they're thinking of is how to maximize their ROI from IIT and get the maximum job. And I have this data point. In the last 10 years, the top 50 ranks of IIT have all taken the same decision without any risk. No, like it's just following that one output. And
so let me get to the second point that I wanted to convey because we are on the zone of some level of philosophy. I think the biggest thing that life is going to throw at all of us is the number of failures it's going to give us. Everyone enters IIT thinking they are the top in their class, they're top in their rank. And I had my first sort of failure in a subject ever in IIT Madras. right? So for me, the brush of failure started with IIT. I came in thinking, okay, I'm going to, I was a school topper in 10th and this and that. And when you come in, everyone else is also a top ranker. Everyone else is also a high achiever. Then suddenly, there are new subjects, your grades don't match up, your CGPA goes to 7 and 6, and I'm sure a lot of individuals face this. The singular thing I can say in terms of whether, see, all of us are high achievers, that's why we got into IIT. We are a 0.1% of some larger audience, right? Which essentially means that obviously as high achievers, desire to be successful is very high because there's a self-selection somewhere that's happening. Now, the problem with that is, in the real world, there is, even within that, there's going to be a 0.1% and a 0.1%. You're already a 0.1%. You don't realize it yet. Now, the problem in the real world is that unicorn builder is a 0.01% of the IIT folks. That essentially means, or some percent, right? Which means that of all the high achievers who have now come from school to IIT, within that, there's going to be a very narrow range that's going to actually be the high achiever within that. Now, you either sort of, obviously you'll be in pursuit of it. But in the pursuit of it, if you attach yourself too much to the outcome, then you're going to sort of miserably deal with life, right? In terms of if maximization of money. And the problem, which is, I think, the other concept that I really love talking about is this whole Ikigai concept, right? It's a merger of 4 circles.
Yeah.
Though, and this is the challenge, right? In college, IIT or IIM, I've gone to both of these institutions, so I know sort of the peer pressure there. Whether that was IIT Madras or IIM Bangalore, obviously all day zero jobs are either consulting or iBanking, or, you have a bunch of companies. The problem with that is the education system talks through the Ikigai circles in a particular way. What are the 4 Ikigai circles that you try and find the match of? 1, what the world needs. 2, what you really are passionate about. 3, what you're good at. And 4, what gives you money. The problem in the real world is that people go at it from the other side. What gives you most money? Day zero, iBanking, consulting. Okay, so you join something that gives you the most money because you're the highest ranker.
Yeah.
You start becoming good at it with learning, with some, then hopefully you enjoy it. Some of those that don't, like Chetan Bhagat, move out after that, right? And then you hope that it contributes to the world by being a great banker or a great consultant, which some point in time you realize it doesn't. So you make enough money and then start becoming a founder. But the ones that really have changed the world actually operate the circles from the other way. They don't care about what gives them most money. They care about what the world wants. They look at what they're most passionate about. Then they go on to be really good at it. And hopefully at some point in time that gives them great money.
Sorry, say that sequence again. I
The
want to write it down.
sequence that the world usually follows
Is money first.
money first.
Yeah.
I become good at it whole time. I hopefully find a lot of joy with it.
Yeah.
And then I hopefully contribute something to the world.
Yeah.
The real builders come at it from the other side. What the world wants, what am I passionate about, what can I be good at, and then what gives me money. It is literally the traversal of the circles, because at the end of the day, you're trying to find the intersection of all these 4.
Yeah.
The intersection doesn't just land up one magical fine day. You have to traverse it one way or the other, because in the real world, you pick a job, you sort of work for you start something. So I think the gist of it is the people who are, and again, I have no value judgment on people who go about it this way and have contributed to the world. There have been a lot of contributors, there have been a lot of very happy professionals. You have to be true to, and this goes back to the human personality. There are sort of 2 very split personality types. And, I do a lot of research on founder, psychology, founder personalities. There are 2 very clear sort of distinctive personalities. One who's a missionary, who operates out of that passion and really goes on to build great institutions and fails also in the process. One who's a mercenary, picks up opportunities, picks where the money is, goes, builds that, builds something great, and then sort of becomes good at it or drives passion. Both are absolutely fine. There are enough and great success stories of both approaches. You have to be true to which approach you will sort of, because the mercenary founder trying to do something missionary might not work. Missionary founder trying to do something mercenary might not work. And these are core Carl Jung based personality traits which people have, right? And so there are these 2 very different personality traits. And going back to my core point, at the end of the day, I still go back to what a LinkedIn doesn't talk about, what probably we may not discuss too much even in this session, is all of us have these absolutely successful resumes. IIT Madras, IIM Bangalore, all-round gold medalist, Cognizant, CEO, Urban Ladder, Antler.
By the way, hold on. All of us don't have that resume.
No, not all
have that resume.
And again, see, maybe I was a particular percentage even within that, and I got lucky, and thanks to too many things that happened in life. But there are so many failures in every stage.
Yeah.
My first failure at IITM, The first, the product that I did in Yahoo got sort of shut down, sort of stripped by the time, I was doing more decks to justify the existence of the product. That's what made me start Urban Ladder. Every failure at every juncture is what made me do the next thing. If I didn't have the failure, maybe I would have had a happy, great path with a huge amount of money in the bank and a very nice career. But, what life does not sort of really teach all of us is how to handle those failures, ask for help, even within IIT. My first, failure in one of those courses is like, I just didn't know how to handle. Of course, I'm talking 25 years back.
Yeah, fair enough. Builders should have a sort of resilience, but also they should be more process and less outcomes.
Actually, there is a philosophical point here is the builder should have the joy of building and putting something out for the sake of the customer. And all the outcomes that come with it, if it doesn't work your way, you have to sort of start detaching yourself. You have to try your best, but detach from the outcome. And that's why I said it's very philosophical, because this is really core Hindu philosophy of sorts. Bhagavad Gita talks about it, right? Which is Karmanyavadi kharaste ma phaleshu kadachana, is really that, which is you go do what you are meant to do. And with that, just put that effort, put that heart. In many cases, it will actually work out. In some cases, it won't. And go build the next thing. And for me, philosophically, life has always been that way. Whatever I build has to have impact. Some have scaled. Urban Ladder was a great success for customers. It was a bad result for investors. We had to distress sell to Reliance. So I think what you see as success, is it about the customer impact? It still goes on to create. Even Reliance has invested and made it a great brand today, right? Yeah. And that's great, because Urban Ladder as a brand stands, it's creating impact for customers. But it didn't make money for too many people. So which essentially means it was a bad financial outcome. Is it a success? Is it a failure? It is both. It is both very different things. And my larger point on all this is, you go as a builder, build the stuff that really matters to you in terms of what you feel. Again, even within that, if you go from the Ikigai circles of what the world wants and what you're good at, rather than what makes the most money, you probably will end up doing something really phenomenal. Even the other way is absolutely fine. And as things scale, there will be success, there'll be failure. In your own professional life, stay true to who you want to be and who you are.
You have referenced your Urban Ladder journey so many times. I feel like, I know it happened between 2012 and 20, and at the time in 2020, everybody knew about it, and it's all over in all the papers. You gave a bunch of interviews. Maybe we'll just run through it again.
Sure.
Younger audience, different audience.
So, okay.
So we started in
2012. So I obviously paired up with my classmate from IMB, and we used to, I think pretty much in 2008 to 12, both of us were neighbors in Bangalore. We used to keep meeting up pretty much every weekend for dinner. I was in Yahoo. He was the chief operating officer of Amar Chitrakatha, the book house. And he was ex-McKinsey, so he was really into building supply chains and, sort of physical product and services business. I was into digital products with Yahoo, so and I had built a bunch of really interesting products in Yahoo that gathered a lot of audiences. 2011 September, which is, let's say, 14 years back, we sort of, one of those, car journeys in Indiranagar, we were just going for dinner or something, and we said, okay, let's do something, let's start something. I think by then, Yahoo had sort of made more decks than products, and it was getting to me, and he was also sort of phasing out. I think Amar Chitrakatha had been acquired by someone, and so we said, let's do something.
Back when a journey through Indiranagar would not be stuck in traffic for...
There was still traffic, it's just that we were not stuck in traffic when we were driving through. And the first idea, funnily, was actually grocery.
Okay.
Actually, not even grocery, it was gourmet food. The gourmet food, within gourmet, we said, let's build a bunch of stuff where you get a kit of a set of products and you can cook gourmet food in your own house. And that was the original idea. We then very quickly realized the market was not great. In terms of it was still a very small market. And somewhere when we said we want to spend the next 10 years, we said market has to be big. We have to be passionate about it. Yeah. And the customer need better be real. And one of the, it should be an intersection of all three. And that's when we were in that zone. Gourmet became grocery very quickly because at least market was big. But we were not passionate about doing grocery. And this was before Big Basket and a bunch of others came. Right. And so we said, okay, grocery, we spent some time in the market. We understood the need and we just felt not our cup of tea. We were not passionate about it. The same going back to the Ikigai circles. It would have probably made us a lot of money, but just didn't have passion. Then we circled through multiple ideas.
Or you could have quit midway.
I might have quit midway, but we were still in jobs and we were still figuring out, okay, which is the idea that we could marry all three, right? Which is sort of really doing the background work.
Right.
That's when, we transferred from one idea to another, from energy to education to a variety of other stuff, and landed at that home and really changing the home, because at that point in time, Roti Kapda Makan, Roti and Kapda had a lot of different companies that did a variety of jobs, but really the inside of the Indian house had not changed. And we said, okay, it's time that someone really builds that. We didn't want to build a furniture store or a furniture shop. We said, let's do something which is online. Now it's counter to a lot of things. Market size was 0 at that time. No one sold furniture online, 2011, 2012. And we had 0 experience on furniture. We had 0 experience on home decor. We had 0 experience on e-commerce. So we said, okay, it seems interesting. It seems the good marriage of the three. Home decor itself was a 20-25 billion, extremely heavily offline. Big market, completely 0 online. Very passionate, because you have to innovate. You can't just go build another Flipkart or Amazon, because that's not going to just sell furniture.
Yeah.
And we felt that the customer need was real. Every single human being that we talked to had a bad experience putting furniture inside their house, including our own experience when we were sort of building our houses. So we said, great need, big market, passionate about it, let's go build something. That was the genesis of it. And I think we went through all of this ourselves, right? The phases of what is the core product, which is the core physical product, furniture. So we did a variety of sort of selections of that. Went to Jodhpur, picked a bunch of stuff. Then we had to get the right people, because we were building an organization, institution that had to scale beyond us. And it's now been 7 years since I moved out. It's been 2 years since Ashish moved out. It still exists. And that is the stage 4 of...
Fabulously well.
It's in the stage 4 of it. It's gone beyond the 2 of us, right? And so we got people in. We raised capital. That was the next thing. We had to raise from, VCs. Ashish had way more experience raising from VCs in his previous company. That was the first ever VC conversation I had. And I think it was a phenomenal set of successes, customer successes, did a variety of new things, phenomenal set of failures. And I think through the whole journey, I think the number of experiences, we have created so many companies and brands, and brands like Mokobara all came from Urban Ladder folks. And so I think the genesis and the impact of it on the ecosystem today has been so phenomenal, because I'm able to build Antler because of my Urban Ladder experience. Ashish has gone on to build an air conditioning company that's energy efficient, and they will launch sometime very soon. So I think the confidence, the network, the ability to sort of build an institution, and that whole journey for us has been extremely important. And it's also created a lot of impact to the ecosystem. And that's what I would call at least what the Urban Ladder story was. And of course, I can go into any of those specific aspects.
Urban Ladder is also part of the first set of internet companies. Maybe Flipkart started 2008-9.
We were the first, literally one of the first 3-4, along with Bluestone at that time, Zivame. The whole category of D2C came because of some of us.
Yeah.
There was nothing called D2C at that time. So
I still remember using Urban Ladder maybe 2014, 15.
Yeah.
Very different. Pre-UPI.
Yes.
And credit card penetration was also much lower.
Oh yeah, the number of challenges we have faced on online payments, and it's just so funny to even talk about all this pre-UPI and bank crashes and those kind of stuff. Which really impact business.
I have this amazing story with Flipkart where 2009-10 we bought a bunch of stuff and they cancelled our order. It was a 60,000-70,000 order, and they asked me for my address to send a check.
Oh wow. We didn't. I don't think we have done that ever, but yeah.
And also pre-Google Maps, because delivery depends on Google Maps, right?
And I think that was the part, right? For us, as we realized, we thought it was going to be a physical product company. We also became a bit of a digital product company because we had to change the experience. We also became a service company because we had to build supply chains. We had to become an experience company because the way you deliver and install furniture has such an impact on Net Promoter Score. So we became a 4 mini sort of building company within one company. And we obviously didn't know all this on day one, honestly, right? We didn't realize the challenge of that sector, as well as what the customer expectations in that sector is to get a great company going. So it became sort of 4 mini companies in one company.
One of the things you've spoken about your Urban Ladder experience many times is about culture building. Is it I mean, some founders talk a lot about culture, and some founders just don't give a damn.
Yes.
So what is the right approach, and why did you focus so much on culture, and what did you do?
I don't, again, like many things in life, there is no one right answer. It was important to us. We operated the way that it was. And for us, what is culture, right? In terms of, I think Simon Sinek talks about this really well, right? There is a why at the core of why you build anything or why a company exists. And that's the why. What is the customer? Who is the customer? What's the vision to that customer? That's the why. The how has two components. The how has what's your values, how are you building the company, and how are you differentiating in the marketplace, which is the strategy, the USP, all of that stuff. So that's sort of the second circle, which is really living that in action. The third circle is the what. It has a variety of things. What is the product you're putting? What's the KPIs? What's the marketing jargons? What's the set of people? All of that stuff. Now, a lot of companies talk a lot about the what, they forget about the why, and that's when they have existential questions. For us, we were very clear. The why Urban Ladder vision was making millions of homes beautiful. We believe that if you make the place in which a human being stays beautiful, they will live a much happier, better life every day. The moment that happens, you sort of spread that, and we would, like a broken record, talk about that vision to everyone, which means that everyone who is coming in understood, and each of those words are extremely important. We're making a home, which means that we're starting from it's almost like building from scratch. Millions. We were not a designer brand. We wanted to impact millions of homes. So don't do something which is just impacts 5 people or 100 people. It's home. We didn't call furniture on day one. We said it's the whole home, which means that it's far more than just furniture. It could be decor, it could be modular, it could be a variety of other stuff. Beautiful is the core word, which means that anything that you put out there, whether that's a product experience or a physical product or a digital experience, the customer has to say, it's beautiful. It's great for me. The moment we put that on the values front, we were very clear that we were going to be online first, then offline, which means we were omni-channel the reverse way. We never offline. The first store came in our 5th year, and it operated so differently. It won us so many physical store awards that year, right? And essentially, it became sort of a paradigm of how a physical store that tied back into online traffic should be. The online experience, when you come to the store, you will not start like a new customer. We will go back to what are the things that you wishlisted, what are the things, and would start from that. So even the offline experience is so tagged to your online experience. So we did a lot of O2O at that point in time, and that was very different. But most importantly, the values, what we look for in the people. You could be the smartest person, but if you didn't breathe the values, you can't join Urban Ladder. And that was something that we maintained from day one, which meant that it was a really close-knit set of people, the first 50, 100 people. As I said, some of those have become great founders who have now gotten invested in by venture capital and built on building great companies. But what are those values? We actually had something called CHEFs at that time, which changed to CHASE. Customer obsession. How do you sort of rate customer obsession? Honesty and transparency. Excellence in every small thing we do. Fun as a way of life. Stepping up to create magic. Even during 2016-17, when we realized that some of those values were being misconstrued, and values also go through change, we sort of changed it to saying that efficiency as well as action bias needs to be important. So we changed it to chase. But the whole point of it is, how do you get people in who live those values? How do you assess those values? How do you reward those values? What are the things that you do to make sure that the right set of people stay back, the wrong people leave? All of that stuff is how you make that whole culture in action, because the behaviors that you live every day is sort of what culture in action is and how a company gets built.
I'm thinking of what you said earlier about missionary founders and mercenary founders. It sounds like a very missionary way of...
See, even mercenary founders at some point in time have to do all this for a long-lasting organization. Otherwise, you're going to have some sort of issues or the other. If you see an organization as a very transactional, tactical thing to get to a particular outcome, like a unicorn or a M&A or a listing or whatever, yeah, you can do whatever, right? But if you see it as something that has to last beyond you, because it's going to change. It's not like the vision statement today might be very different from what we created, especially after the acquisition. And maybe the culture and the values are a bit different. But that's for the new sort of quote-unquote person who runs it to decide, right?
Yeah.
So I think you will have to go at it, missionary or mercenary. You'll just have to adjust yourself to do all this.
Yeah. I'm also thinking from an IIT Madras point of view, we are sitting in CFI, and I don't know how it's come to it, but there is a sort of a built culture that's now established among students. They love doing things. A lot of students are doing stuff. Whether they're starting companies or not, I don't know. Compared to others, I don't know. But compared to our times, it's much more. I wonder, I mean, I know that loosely speaking, IIT Madras has a slogan, it's Siddhir Bhavati Karmaja. And I don't know how much that influences everything, or how much of it is just a sort of a legacy that's sort of gained momentum over time. Deep impact of the overall environment and culture on the people here.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't. While you were saying that, I was thinking of...
No, I think it's phenomenal as a VC now. If you see the different institutions and just the focus of engineering and deep tech in India over the next 5 years, the last 5 years, IIT Madras has played a phenomenal role. It's just great to see, and it's a very proud moment in terms of what I think the institution has become. I think this is probably the best place for any technology person. If you're in your 12th standard, if you know even in your 12th standard that you're going to be a builder, you're going to be an entrepreneur at some point in time, I cannot think in this country of a better institution to join today, because you get a phenomenal campus. As much as it's in Chennai, not the most favorable city by compared to a bunch of other cities, but it's a cocoon within Chennai, and a lot of people probably coming from outside don't realize it. It's really the most beautiful cocoon, which allows you to sort of shape into a butterfly of sorts. It's got it's a campus like no other. There is a reason why so much happens in this campus, because it's just the most beautiful campus that I've ever seen. And the moment you have an environment like that, coupled with what the institution is doing, which is creating this center, or just the focus, the IITM Research Park, the bunch of student initiatives that offers for building, it is but natural that you don't fall into this whole thing of day one job. And if you want to do higher studies and stuff, of course you should go do that. But I would be surprised if you don't really want to be a builder right after the IIT Madras experience. So if any student ever is thinking of right after 12th standard to come to an institution, I cannot think of a better place to build. And I personally have been, I don't know exactly fully as to what's happened in the last 15 years, because I've sort of it's been a ringside view for me, but just the kind of impact, the kind of founders that have come from here. Some of these guys are very closely, I've interacted with them, the Tarun and Satish of Medibuddy and Suyash. And, I think the kind of, it's not just founders who are strong technical, they have been great storytellers. They have been just great institution builders, culture builders, and you can see the difference in the kind of companies they are building compared to many others. So something really has happened, and I would say that the students who are coming in should absolutely use that benefit.
That is correct. Tarun occasionally talks about building a company for 200 years, and I'm like, what is this?
Yeah.
Where did this come from?
Yeah, absolutely.
I just want to tell you that both of us are from Chennai. So if he spoke about Chennai seat, both of us love the city, both of us are family.
Oh, I am as Chennai as it gets. I do live in Bangalore for the last 18 years, but I would still say, the Chennai ecosystem today is way different and way better, but still, I would think that a lot of your time gets spent in campus, and this campus is probably one of the most beautiful campuses.
Even the companies who are coming to campus now are probably looking for the builder kind of folks.
Yeah. It does help your first job. It does help everywhere. It doesn't have to be that you become a founder right after campus. Actually, very few people should become founders right after campus. I would say it's just better to get some experience and really fine-tune and hone some of your skills. And I've seen, the college founder also is an anomaly, right? Not everyone needs to be a Mark Zuckerberg, and everyone has that inspiration, and not everyone can be a Tarun or all the other people who started right after campus. But I think a few years of work also help you. You can be a builder after 3 years, after 5 years. Some of the best builders, maybe after 5-7 years, become founders.
Yeah. There's some statistic I've read that founders in their 40s are statistically more likely
to build companies. Okay, maybe it's time that I become a founder again.
Thank you so much. This was great. When I spoke to you first, I really wanted to get a sense of what do people think of build and builders and so on. And maybe, I know it's reunion time for you and your batch is all over the place. And if you look at your batch now, in retrospect, I know you were in naval and you're no longer in naval architecture.
Yes.
But how has that spread happened? Where have people moved to, and what is the spread of things that people are doing? And how many have become builders?
How many have become builders? I don't know the exact percentage, and maybe we should just do a poll tomorrow when we do the reunion. But I think it's probably going to be north of 70%, right, who are builders. And see, by the way, the other thing I'll also be honest is you could be a builder within a larger setup. You could be very entrepreneurial. You don't want to take on the risk of building something of your own. That's also absolutely
that's
fine.
The majority, right?
Today, probably it's 50-50. People who have gone on to build their own stuff, I'm saying it's 50-50 or 60-40 or something like that, right? It's probably very high, 50% or more. And that's great, because that essentially means that you've created institutions and things come from no background, like literally nothing, no big corporation. But a bunch of the others are also probably builders. See, I think the geographical spread of this batch is also very interesting, different from what is happening today. In our batch, there was probably like 80-85% who went to the US. And today it's probably like 20-25%, I don't know, 20%. It's literally flipped. It's probably flipped in a 25-year period. And I think a lot of those folks went for their MS, and then because the market was pretty bad, some of them continued on to PhD. A variety of them who thought would never do their PhD went on to do their PhD. And so a lot of them actually, right after that, became very deep, I would say, builders in bigger companies or went the academics route. And today, if you see the mix, probably around 70% of the batch has come from outside of India, right? In terms of even the reunion tomorrow, 100 people, I would say at least 70% are completely outside India. The good part is some of them over the last 10 years have started coming back to India, either because of personal reasons and or want to go do something of their own. And that's a good new thing to also see. So I would say that a good percentage have been their own builders. And if you just look at builders even within a larger setup, it's probably 90-10.
Nice. Okay, Rajiv, this was great. Thank you so much. I don't want to hold you for any longer. I just want to say that if somebody's watching this and they want to play a drinking game with how many times we said built, go for it.
No, thanks so much for having me.
Any last thoughts?
There are, no, I think we covered the philosophical thing also. I actually don't have any other last thoughts. Zilch.
Great. Both exhausted. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, subscribe, drop a comment, follow Antler, follow Rajiv, and follow us. Thank you.